For the opportunity to contribute to the presidential directive. The Speaker, sir, there's a key issue here that there are a number of proposed amendments by the President, which need to come before this Parliament. And one of the key proposals is to create the office of the official opposition. And the reason why that is important is because it is clear that for this country to have a balanced conversation, the runner-up to the presidential election need to get an opportunity to be carried to this Parliament and ventilate the issues of this nation. And remember, the second runner in the presidential election carries a huge number of votes. It represents a certain constituency, which Mr. Speaker, cannot be ignored. And therefore, the proposal brought before this House are in order. The time has come, and I propose that those proposals, Mr. Speaker, sir, be adopted and be brought before the House for this House to debate on those issues. The second issue, Mr. Speaker, sir, is on the issue regarding the NCDF. Mr. Speaker, sir, if there is funds in this country which has transformed this country, is NCDF funds. If you walk around this country, you see developments that have been created by NCDF. In fact, Kenyans have been saying they wish the NCDF structure can be adopted in the counties. Despite the fact that we have poured so much billions in the counties, the effect is not being seen by the common man. And therefore, there have been issues, there have been court cases which we have been defending, and the only way we can be able to salvage the NCDF, which, Mr. Speaker, sir, takes care of the vulnerables, paying for education, paying for bursary. Some of that money even goes to an extent of making sure that food is provided for in our primary school so that our kids can be able to continue in schools. Remember, Mr. Speaker, sir, the parents have a huge responsibility, especially on JSS. It is a cost which has been put on them. There's a lot of hue and cry on the ground, and therefore, on that account, Mr. Speaker, sir, I urge that the proposal brought before this House by the President be adopted, be taken seriously, because the advantages are cutting across the top of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Muriu. Do we have Honorable John Kawanjiku, the MP for Kiambaa?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to a very important debate that affects this House and also affect the people of Kenya in regards to the communication that was done by the President in terms of making sure that we amend the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, some of the issues that the President wrote about is one of the issues of the NGCDF, to make sure that it is enshrined within the Constitution. The NGCDF is so important to the people of this republic because it has enabled the Kenyans and the people of Kenya to at least have an opportunity to go to school, make sure that we improve the infrastructure, school infrastructures, especially on areas, even in my constituency, whereby we are dealing with poor infrastructure that since independence they have never been modernized. The students have been using, old schools, old furnitures. This NGCDF has enabled us to modernize our schools, make sure that we give bursaries to the people and to the people of Kiambaa constituency, and also making sure at the end of the day that we have kept our students and our students in the school so they can have an opportunity to be educated and to make sure that we eradicate poverty in our constituency, Mr. Speaker. The other issue that the President wrote about is about making sure that the office of the official opposition is enshrined within the Constitution so that we can give an opportunity and a job to the leader of the opposition. We have seen him loitering around within the boundaries of our republic. So if we make sure that this office is enshrined within the Constitution, At the end of the day, he will have a duty and a role to play, to make sure that he checks the executive, to make sure that each and everything that the executive is doing is being monitored. And we don't want him to just be rattling without an office. It is important to have a budget so that he can be able to audit and check the government of the day and the performance of the government of the day, so that also the government of the day can be able to put more effort on issue-based things that are, that are actually enabling and helping the Kenyan citizens to make sure that their life is better than the way it is. Mr. Speaker, some of these communication, they are very, very important. We make sure that the office of the opposition, that even if any person participates in an election and is able to win an election and is able to become number 2 or become the leader of opposition, he will help to guard and also to protect the interest of the Kenyans across the board, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we are supporting the amendment of this constitution, Mr. Speaker, and we make sure that some of these things we will not be able to deal with. The same case we have seen with the issue of 2 to 3, Mr. Speaker, that the government exaggerates the usage and misuse of 2 to 3 because there is no official leader of opposition who is checking the government and the performance of the government of the day. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm in support that we should amend the constitution and make sure that some of those things that the president have raised, we have been able to put them within the constitution for future references, Mr. Speaker. I therefore support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable John Kagushia, the MP from Kurueni. Make your contributions.
Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I would like to support the proposals by His Excellency the President in bringing the amendments to this House. And of course, one of the amendments that we have is in regard to the official of opposition leader. And this position, Honorable Speaker, the reason why I support is because this is going to be for posterity. It's going to help our nation to bring the official opposition leader in the House so that any person who occupies that position is able to make contribution which is meaningful to the country, is able to contribute and also add his ideas and his agenda as an alternative government, and those proposals and policies that are proposed by the official of opposition can actually be adopted by government and also be implemented. It is unfair that the official of opposition leader finds himself in a way that he incites the public in the public rallies, in demos, in Maandamanos, in the streets, in a way to urge Kenyans to engage in illegal activities to help him be able to get what he argues he did not get when the election was conducted and when the election was completed last year. It is important that instead we bring this leader to the House and have him make his arguments formally and in a way that can be interrogated also. Because, you know, there's nobody who can interrogate you there in the public rallies. There's nobody who will be able to ask you questions as to why you have that stand or that belief or that persuasion and why you're inciting the public. Instead, it's important that those persuasions that the official opposition party does have are brought to the people in a formal way, in a way that they can be interrogated. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kaguchia, I'll give you 2 more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You sound more knowledgeable. I wanted you, before you go to the next point, to explain to people how you can bring the leader of the official opposition to a parliament in a presidential system where there is no opposition.
Honorable Speaker.
Just elaborate that so that Parliament can proceed.
Honorable Speaker, the reason why we are in this assembly is to legislate. And one of the things that we intend to do is to legislate as per the proposals that His Excellency the President has brought to the House on how we can make this position formal and how we'll make this position availed to Kenyans for posterity. So, Honorable Speaker, the question that you have raised is an important question, which we are going to be deliberating and debating and engaging on so that we can be able to look at our constitution, because we are actually reviewing, or we are looking at our constitution, so that we can see how we can now be able to bring provisions that are going to allow exactly what you have asked for, so that you can have the official position formally in this assembly. So, Honorable Speaker, our work is to legislate, and we are going to do exactly that, so that we can be able to bring and to make this possible. Honorable Speaker, we also have the 2/3 gender rule that has been proposed to be able to achieve this in our new dispensation. And I want to make this further proposal, and this is also one of the things that we are going to be looking at when we are going to be implementing this 2/3 gender rule in the assembly through the legislation and through the constitutional change that we are proposing here. And what I propose is that because of the costs that are involved in selecting or in nominating many women or women leaders, let me say that, to balance the gender, I propose that we give precedence to nominating people with disability, people who are going to represent minorities, in ethnic minorities, people who are going to be representing other special categories. We nominate them ahead of the women nominees in the assembly. And once we do that, then we take that number and look at it in totality, and then use that number now to calculate the 2/3 gender, so that we can see how many more women do we need to be able to balance the equation. And in a situation where we have more women in the parliament, then how many more men do we need to be able to balance the equation? And that way we are going to reduce the number of men or women who are going to be nominated in this assembly, so that we are also sensitive to the costs that are involved. Honorable Speaker, you are aware that we have been debating the supplementary budget in this assembly this afternoon. And of course, one of the major concerns of any Kenyan anywhere is the cost of running government. The recurrent budget of this government, of course, of government, as it has been for quite some time, has been way beyond what Kenyans can be able to manage. And for that reason, then, we need to look for ways and means of ensuring that as much as practically possible, we have reduced the number of nominated seats in the National Assembly. And that's why I propose, when we are looking at this 2/3 gender rule, we must then, first of all, nominate all those other positions, and then use that number to calculate the final number that is going to help us understand how many women we are going to nominate. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, we have the NGCDF Act that we looked at in this, or NGCDF motion that we looked at in this House, and the main purpose was to ensure that we again mainstream it in our Constitution. The Honorable President, His Excellency the President, in his wisdom, has also proposed that we do mainstream this in our Constitution. And I would want to point that this is very important and very key for us as an assembly, because we are going to deal with the naysayers. We are going to deal with the busybodies that have been in the corridors of justice every other day, trying to derail this very important aspect of our resources, which go directly to the people on the ground. And I'm sure if the people on the ground were asked to vote on NGCDF, you will find that every other common man, every other person who depends on the bursary that they receive from the NGCDF would be voting with the members of parliament on this. But some people, busybodies, have shown like the members of parliament have been pursuing the NGCDF for their own benefit. But that is not the case. This is for the case and for the benefit of the common mwananchi in the Republic of Kenya. And so, Honorable Speaker, what I propose is that not only do we entrench the NGCDF in our Constitution, but we also enhance the mandate. You realize that we have been looking at the education, we have been looking at the security issues, but now we also need to enhance this mandate for the NGCDF much more, so that we can be able to help in other smaller issues that trouble our people in the villages. Look, for example, on the issues of irrigation water. NGCDF earlier on was able to address some of those small small dams and intakes that would help small irrigation schemes that then would help the villages to irrigate their land. Unfortunately, after the mandate was removed from the NGCDF and given to the counties, most of those have been abandoned, have been forgotten, and have not been taken care of over the years. And so I would ask that as we are looking at this, let us enhance the mandate of NGCDF so that we can be able to do much more in addressing the things that are concerning our people. And of course, Honorable Speaker, what you realize is that by us doing this, we are going to be helping our people on the ground to have a larger benefit of government in terms of what they are able to do, especially when they are able to educate their children, and of course be able to do many other things in the villages, and as we pursue this aspect of constitutional review. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I can see my time is over. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The MP for Ainamoi, the Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Langat, on account of rank and seniority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this debate. Mr. Speaker, I think this is one of those motions which are open-ended, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I served in this House in the 10th Parliament in the old Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud that I was part of those who was part of the process of making the new Constitution. Mr. Speaker, at the time when the draft was released in